Hey guys, it's Kasera, and today I'm going to be doing the best fantasy books of 2019. Of my 2019 reading recap. If you missed the last video in this series, then I will link it up in the cards for you guys. Additionally, links to all videos in this series will be available in the description as they come out. As you may have noticed from the title of this video, this book is genre specific, and that's because when I was going through all of my favorite books of the year, they all happen to be fantasy books. And of course, this video is about fantasy books, but I didn't think it was fair to all of the other genres that I read this year, so I decided to do genre-specific recaps. This video, of course, is the one that we have all been waiting for, because in this video, I'll be talking about my most surprising and best fantasy books that I read this year. So I made myself narrow it down to 5 per each category, or else we would be here forever. But because I'm only doing 5 per category, I do have one honorable mention that I'd like to talk about before we get into all of those other books. And don't forget, there are timestamps in the description for all of this if you guys want to jump around. So first, we're gonna start with my honorable mention. So the book series that didn't quite make my best or most surprising books of the year, but I still feel like I have to mention in this video, is the Lightbringer series by Brent, which includes The Black Prism, The Blinding Knife, The Broken Eye, The Blood Mirror, and The Burning White. So this year, I read the last 4 books in this series. Last December is when I read the first book in this series, but from the beginning of this series, I have loved this series so much. I love the atmosphere of the series the most because it just has that high fantasy atmosphere that you want from a series. It also has very good political situations, which I love. There's tons of great unlikable characters and a fantastic magic system that I absolutely love. The only reason that it's not higher up on this list is because for some reason I never end up liking the ending to any of these books. So not one of these books made 5 stars for me. But at the same time, I still really love this series, and just reading this series makes me so happy every time I pick up one of these books. So I ended up giving The Black Prism 4 stars, The Blinding Knife 4.5 stars, The Broken Eye 4.25 stars, The Blood Mirror 4 stars, and The Burning White 4.75 stars. It's a fantastic series that I really love and definitely recommend if you like adult high fantasy. Now we're going to be moving on to the most surprising fantasy books that I read in 2019. The first book on this list is Foundryside by Robert Jackson Bennett. So this book, I had no idea what to expect going into it. I've never read anything by Robert Jackson Bennett before. I didn't really know what this book was about, but I was doing the read-alongs for the BookTube SFF Awards, and this was one of the books that was on that list, so I decided to pick it up, and wow, it's really good. I really enjoyed this book. I love the characters in this book, I love the political situations that happen in this book, and I love the magic system, because the magic system is kind of like technology, but it's technology made with magic, which is really interesting to me. It works in very specific ways, which I really enjoyed. I also really like just the culture and all of the world building that happens in this series, because it's about merchant houses and how the magic affects the culture is really interesting. And the plot of this book was also really good. So it's about a character named Sanja who is a thief. She's commissioned to steal this thing at the beginning of the story, and she does something she's not supposed to do, and she opens the box that she was supposed to steal, and it kind of changes everything, and she's just pulled into this greater plot quest sort of thing, and it was really good. I really enjoyed this. I'm really excited to read the next book in the series, Shorefall, which is coming out, I believe, early next year, so I'm super excited for it, and definitely really love this book and highly recommend it. So I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. The next book on this list is the Winternight Trilogy by Katherine Arden, which includes The Bear and the Nightingale, The Girl in the Tower, and The Winter of Witch. This series I really enjoyed as well. What makes this series I think the most is the atmospheric nature of the series, because it's set in Russia and it kind of follows some of the folk tales from Russian mythology, and I really love that aspect of it because there's a lot of sort of fairy tales, but it's done in very interesting ways. And I love the family that this series follows. It follows several different characters within the family, but the main character follows is Vasilisa, who has kind of a magic to her that I really enjoy. And just how beautiful the series is, I loved every second of it. The first book in the series, The Bear and the Nightingale, is really slow, but there's definitely a purpose to how slow it is, and I really enjoyed it. And the plot definitely picks up a lot more in The Girl in the Tower and The Winter of Witch, which I really, really loved. And I definitely want to read more by Katherine Arden because she has a fantastic writing style that is just so beautiful that I want to read more of. I gave all 3 books in this series 5 stars. The next book in this video that I'd like to talk about is The Ember Blade by Chris Whitting. So I picked this up on the recommendation of one of my subscribers who left a comment in my video, and I loved it. Like, it was so good. I will say it is slow to start out on, but it definitely builds really well and has some really great character building. This story is about 2 friends who have very differing opinions on the political situation in their country right now, because their country that has been taken over by another country, I believe it's called the Croden, and all of their culture and ways are kind of looked down as like second citizens in the new country. But something happens pretty early on in the book that kind of tosses them into a situation that they definitely don't want to be in. It kind of forces them to look at the political situation and what it is and how that affects everything around them. And it also forces them on an almost like classic fantasy quest. I'm definitely excited for the next book in the series because I'm pretty sure there's gonna be another book in this series. The ending of the first book, like, it broke me. Like, there were so many things that happened at the ending of the first book that I'm just like, the next book is gonna be amazing. This is also like a really great underrated fantasy book that I definitely recommend, and I ended up giving this one 5 stars as well. The next book on this list is Vida Nostra by Marina and Sergei Dyachenkov. I went into this book completely blind. I didn't know anything about this book, and I'm really glad that that's the way I went into this book, because wow, this book is crazy and mind-bending, and there's so much that happens in this book that I don't fully understand even now, having read the entire book, but I absolutely love it. This book is often referred to as like Harry Potter for adults, which I kind of agree with. I kind of don't also, because Harry Potter is very like down to earth at times, and this one is very like, what is happening the entire time, which I love. This is following a character named Sasha who is approached at the very beginning of the novel to do something, and she does it, and lots of things happen after that. Like, that's all I really want to say about this book, but it's fantastic and it's beautifully written. Absolutely love the writing. Like, I really want the next books in the series to be translated from Russian, because this was originally written in Russian. Like, I really want them to be translated because I feel like it would be just amazing. And I'm so happy that I've read this book, and I ended up giving this one 5 stars as well. The next book on this list is The Lies of Lamora by Scott Lynch. I did not expect very much going into this book, which sounds weird because everyone loves this book, but I did try to read this book about 6 years ago, and I DNF'd it pretty early on. So when I picked it up this year, I was just like, I want to love this book. I want to love it so much, and I didn't think I would, but I did. I loved every second of this book. The beginning, I will say, is a bit slow. It starts off when the main character is quite young, and it has plot lines from both when he's a child and from when he's an adult, and both plot lines are running parallel to each other. So you see scenes from when he's an adult, followed by scenes from when he's a child, and vice versa, going throughout the entire novel. I actually really love the way this book is structured. I really, really enjoyed it. That being said, I don't recommend the audiobook for this one. I did read the audiobook originally, but it is a little bit harder to follow the structure when you're listening to the audiobook versus reading the physical book. I really loved the way the structure worked and how it worked within the plot. All of the things that are set up at the beginning of the book are paid off so nicely at the end. Like, every single detail of this book is necessary, and I love that about it. This book is about a character named Locke Lamora, who is part of a thieving group called the Gentlemen Bastards, and that's really all you need to know about it. It's fantastic, highly, highly recommended. This is the only book this year, I think, also that has legitimately put me on a reading hangover, because like, as soon as I finished this book, I was just like, I need to reread this book. Like, I need to reread this book right now. I haven't reread it yet, but hopefully I will get to it soon, because this book is fantastic and it needs to be reread. Just knowing what I know now, by the end, I feel like it'll be a completely different book when I reread it. And I gave this book 5 stars as well. So those are all of the most surprising books that I read this year. Now it is time to get to the best fantasy books that I read this year, which I'm so excited for. So the first of my best fantasy books of the year is of course going to be the Lord of the Rings trilogy by J.R.R. Tolkien, which includes The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King. So this series, I hadn't read it before this year. Actually, I read The Fellowship of the Ring last year, but I read the last 2 books in this series, The Two Towers and The Return of the King, this year, and I really loved both of these. I didn't like The Fellowship of the Ring as much as I really wanted to. The Two Towers like made me fall in love with this series. I absolutely absolutely love just all of the character building and growth that happens in the Two Towers. It's definitely my favorite book in this series, and just like everything about this world and all of that, I absolutely love. I will say the writing is not my favorite. I really don't like the way where a lot of times it's one character that'll tell the story of what they went through. I would rather just go from that character's perspective when it's happening. But overall, the series is fantastic. I completely understand why so many people love this series and why so many like other series have come into existence because of the creativity that Tolkien has in this series. It's fantastic. I absolutely loved it. Gave The Fellowship of the Ring 4 stars, The Two Towers 5 stars, and The Return of the King 4.5 stars. The next book on this list is The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. This book was so good. So The Dragon Republic is the sequel to The Poppy War, which is an Asian-inspired grimdark fantasy following the character named Rin. In the first book, Rin attends a school to become part of the military. There's, of course, magic involved, and there's this crazy war. There's a lot of political situations. There are some really fantastic characters. And wow, this book gets really dark. I love how dark this book gets, but at the same time, it kind of makes me squirm a little bit when I'm reading it, but like, I kind of like that. And The Dragon Republic, compared to The Poppy War, is just like a completely different monster. The Poppy War like really build the story up, and like the second half of The Poppy War, of course, was crazy filled with action. The Dragon Republic, though, is just like that all the way through. Like from the beginning, it starts with action. There's some really great emotional scenes where like our main character has to go through some really deep emotional traumas, and it's just fantastic. I loved every second of The Dragon Republic, and definitely excited to continue on with this series as well. Which, by the way, I gave The Dragon Republic 5 stars. The next book on this list is The Way of Kings by Brent and Sanderson. I have been meaning to read this book for years now. It came out quite a while ago, and I've been meaning to start this series, and I'm so glad that I finally did, because I loved every second of this book. This book is the first book in the Stormlight Archives, which is Brent and Sanderson's like really big series that he's still currently working on. It's not finished yet. They're only the first 3 books in the series are out. And I absolutely love the world that this is set in, because in this world there are these great like everlasting storms, so there's always wind. So the world is different because of this. Even the plants and things like that are very different because of the storms that happen. I love the magic in this world, but what really makes this book, I feel like, is the characters and the politics in this book. I loved all of the characters. They're very interesting. Most of them are actually very likable characters, but they're all very different people, and I love that about them. And I love the complex political situations that happen in this book. The ending of this book was so good. I absolutely love the ending, and the way the politics was kind of sorted out at the end I thought was really interesting, and I really enjoyed this one. So I ended up giving this one 5 stars. So the second to last book series on this list is The Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb, which includes Assassin's Apprentice, Royal Assassin, Assassin's Quest, Ship of Magic, Mad Ship, Ship of Destiny, Fool's Errand, Golden Fool, Fool's Fate, Dragon Keeper, Dragon Haven, City of Dragons, Blood of Dragons, Fool's Assassin, Fool's Quest, and Assassin's Fate. So this series is 16 novels long, and yes, I read all of them this year, and it's fantastic. It's made up of 5 smaller series. There's 3 that are following the main character, which is Fitzchivalry Farseer, who is the bastard of the Crown Prince and is trained as, you might have guessed, as an assassin for the crown. It also follows the Bingtown traders as well as some of the Rainwall traders in the spin-off series, which is the Liveship Traders and the Rainwall Chronicles. I love this series so much. I didn't think I would like it necessarily going into it, because I read Assassin's Apprentice like about 5 years ago and I didn't think very much of it. I reread it this year though, and I absolutely love it and all of the other books in this series. This series is obviously epic, but it has such a rich world and such interesting characters. The character development in this series is really what makes this series amazing. I love all of the different characters, how complex these characters are, and how a lot of the times the conflicts in this series are irreconcilable conflicts between people. It gives it a sense of reality in a way that I feel like a lot of other fantasy series don't, just because you can definitely relate to the characters and what they're going through, because their conflicts are very similar to what our own conflicts might actually be. So I really love that aspect of the series, but it also has fantastic world building and a really great plot as well. Also, this series is considered grimdark. which I don't think I would consider like all of the books in the series grimdark, but definitely the last book in the series, Assassin's Fate, gets really grimdark at times. And then there are sections throughout the series that gets a little grimdark as well, which I really enjoyed. This series is definitely one of my favorite of all times, and I'm so happy to have read it this year. So star ratings, I gave Assassin's Apprentice 4 stars, Royal Assassin 4.5 stars, Assassin's Quest 5 stars, Ship of Magic, Mad Ship, and Ship of Destiny all got 5 stars, Fool's Errand 4.5 stars, Golden Fool and Fool's Fate, both 5 stars. Dragon Keeper and Dragon Haven both got 4 stars. City of Dragons and Blood of Dragons got 4.5 stars each. Then Fool's Assassin, Fool's Quest, and Assassin's Fate all got 5 stars from me. So this series, obviously, there's not one book in this series that I rated less than 4 stars, and most of them got at least 4.5 stars, if not 5 stars. This series is definitely one that I really love. I highly recommend it, especially if you love good character development. I will say that this series is a little bit slower than most other fantasy series, but it is definitely worth the wait. And the last series that is on this list is the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie, which includes The Blade itself, Before They Are Hanged, and The Last Argument of Kings. So this series is another one that really surprised me this year, because I had read The Blade itself, the first book in the series, about 5 years ago, and I didn't understand the hype. Like, I didn't understand it at all, and I thought it was just like a really boring book. But I reread it this year, and oh my gosh, The Blade itself is so good. This is another one that is very character driven. If you don't like great characters, then you're not gonna like this series, because what makes the series so amazing is the character building, and kind of like the spin on classic fantasy tropes also makes the series amazing. One of my favorite characters of probably all time is in this series, which is Sanderson. He's just so well developed even before the series started, and I absolutely love his character, and he's like the main character that made me love this series, though there are a lot of other characters in the series as well. Just how unlikable these characters can be, while at the same time still making you love them, is the reason why I love this series. It also has a really great world, very complex politics, and really good action as well. So definitely highly recommend this series, especially if you like good character building and fantastic world building as well. Highly recommend, and definitely one of my favorite series of all time. I gave all 3 books in the series 5 stars. So that's all of the books I have on this list. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of them. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I plan on posting at least 4 videos a week in the month of December, so consider subscribing. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.